Hi, this is John Firth from Firth and Friends, and I have as my guest the inimitable Darren Moss. I think this is the fourth or fifth LinkedIn Live we've done together, and this is now a reflection of his new being. He's reinvented himself as a LinkedIn expert, and he is an expert. I'm actually part of his group that he's formed called Brand Built. And it's a great experience. I've learned a hell of a lot from him. And I think you're going to learn a lot if you stay for this whole thing and listen to everything he has to say, because it is truly based in wisdom and knowledge and experience. So why did we do this webinar or this LinkedIn Live now? Well, LinkedIn is the meeting grounds for people who are selling B2B, not necessarily B2C. That's Instagram and Facebook and what have you. But B2B, it is really the only internationally. Actually, they only do it. Is LinkedIn the one that does it in English? Is only who?
Yeah, you know what? I've never actually tested it. I think LinkedIn is only in English.
Yeah. There was something else, another platform that I heard was only in English, and I thought it was weird. I thought it might have been LinkedIn. In any case, welcome, Darren. I'll have him introduce himself. So today is all about how you reinvent yourself. So Darren became a LinkedIn expert. Before that, he was a coach. And before that, he ran a communications company, his own communications company. So he is the master of reinvention because everything he does is successful, which I still haven't figured out how he does it, but he does it. So Darren, introduce yourself and talk about LinkedIn and what it's done for you. And we're going to start getting into the particulars of how you can use LinkedIn to reinvent yourself and achieve new goals.
Well, as always, thank you for having me. And I've never heard my name with inimitable before, so it sounded nice.
Yeah, I was afraid in that moment it wasn't going to come out of my throat.
Yeah, it's like indubitably, right?
Yeah, right.
But also, I wouldn't call myself an expert because I don't think we're experts in anything because everything is always evolving, right? LinkedIn is always evolving. In fact, I don't even think LinkedIn is an expert at LinkedIn, but I've certainly created a way. And I've created a brand, and I've learned the power of LinkedIn, not as social media, but for purpose. And just to add one correction, it's B2B, B2C, C2C. It doesn't matter because if you think about it, every professional has a LinkedIn. Because if you don't have a LinkedIn, you're probably staying put in the seat that you're in, and you're not networking and you're not growing, and people aren't selling to you because they're not reaching you. Yes. So LinkedIn is powerful. Yeah.
Right? I just told you about this SBA program that's funding a program. The reason why I was chosen as the coach consultant, the nonprofit, to put several names forward, because I had the best LinkedIn profile.
You nailed it right there.
Yep.
The LinkedIn profile is Googleable, right? When we all do this, we're all voyeurs in a sense. When you meet someone, most of us just Google them right away. Google their name, Google their net worth.
Or if we hear their name, or just Google their name. If a client says, I've got to meet this guy, or I'm having a meeting with him, I've never met him, go to LinkedIn. 2 minutes, you know all about him.
That's exactly right. But what are the first things that comes up on every professional on there when you Google them is LinkedIn, right? So it is our job to dress up that LinkedIn profile for purpose. Now, it gets confused with social media. Sure, there's a social aspect to it, but it's purposeful. Social media really is Facebook for learning about your friends' grandkids, right? Or happy birthday wishes, or what you ate for dinner in a horribly taken photograph that doesn't look appetizing.
That's awesome. Sometimes looks okay.
Most people shouldn't be taking pictures of their food. Exactly. They're not that good at cooking, right? But that's okay. That's what those platforms are for. That is not what LinkedIn is for. LinkedIn is your professional persona. It is your personal brand. And if you learn how to master it, you turn it into a funnel for networking, marketing purposes, and sales. And that is where I had my last pivot. It's when I started posting about real relevant topics. I became a little vulnerable, and I saw the power that LinkedIn has. So for instance, I posted about how I was depressed or I had ADHD, and all of a sudden, I was going from 100 impressions to 10,000 on that one post because it's real and relatable.
Yes.
And people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. So pairing that together, I created a brand around LinkedIn.
So I have an internal monitor. If I feel nervous about the post, like maybe I've gone too far or maybe been too vulnerable, it does well. If I put something together and it's like, okay, I've done the trick, it doesn't do well. There's always got to be a part where I'm saying, wow, I've just sort of like exposed myself. Or is this really appropriate to be talking about this? Those are the best one that I did was the disaster I had when I thought I kept an upper hand, basically telling my board to go fuck themselves. I don't think I can bleep that out right now.
It doesn't.
It went off the charts.
Life. LinkedIn is life. Business is life. We don't have a work-life balance anymore. I'm in my home. You're in your home. It's life. We're all relatable.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question then. Why is it that I don't want to say dramatic because that'll give the answer. Why is it these bad stories, these vulnerable stories attract so much attention and not the glorious stories of high success and so forth? Because those don't seem to really attract a lot of attention. I mean, relatively speaking.
Well, many reasons. One, we all stop to watch the car accident or the train wreck. Two, misery loves company. And three, the majority of us wallow in a bowl of shit. So we like to know that someone else is wallowing in that same bowl. Right. It's life. But the outlook that I have chosen, you have two options. You can be negative, curmudgeon, you can be, followed by a dark cloud all the time, or you can choose to be positive. I like to be positive. So every negative situation or circumstance that I talk about has a positive spin. We have one life to live, so why not live in positivity? And it is my belief, at least with the audience I've built, all relatable, all have had some form of depression or been told they were the bad kid or failed at something in life. But the spin is move beyond that. It's not a weakness unless you choose it to be. And that's where I think I've been able to cultivate this audience of 19,000 followers that also feel the same way.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I see my own migration. If you had told me 5 years ago that I was going to open the kimono the way I am now, I would have said that's going to be counterproductive. That's the end of my business. It was that bad. I could talk about myself. I could not write about myself. I mean, I literally couldn't. And it wasn't until I hired a LinkedIn writing coach about 6 months ago that I actually learned to write about myself in a way that I actually feel good. Even if I'm open and vulnerable, I just feel like it now resonates. Whereas it was very hard to get to that point for me.
Well, so for me to press send or post on that first depression post, it was really tough. Everyone goes through that. Oh my God, the world can't find out that I'm the CEO and I should never be depressed. But the reality is there isn't a single soul on the planet that hasn't had a depressed moment in life.
Right.
We're not unique. We are really not unique. And when it comes to human emotion, right? We're unique in the way that we dress and present ourselves and hold ourselves out to the world and build our personal brand. But emotionally, we're all the same.
No, I 100,000% agree with you. It's funny because a lot of what I've learned to do as a coach is to read people. You can call it empathy, to know how they're feeling. But in some cases, it's a technical thing. You learn enough about certain people that you can tell the hallmarks pretty quickly. So, he's a little stiff when he shakes his hand and doesn't look me in the eye. All right. So I'm getting a sense that maybe he's uncomfortable. I don't think I think women have a good intuitive sense of people, but I know many men who have to work hard as I have to be able to understand people and be at one with people.
Yeah. It's just natural to who we are, right? So on the male side, it's harder to perceive emotion. On the female side, it's easier. But there's lots of pros and cons, and that's what makes us whole, right?
Yeah. And it's not for nothing that the whole wave of EQ, emotional intelligence, has become such a wave, because that really is the one distinguishing factor of great leaders. Great leaders understand humanity. Now, they may not be empathic. In the sense, they'll be empathic in the true sense of the word. They may not be sympathetic. Sure. They may be empathic. And I do think it's the one major thing that distinguishes great leaders is they know how their audience feels, how their consumers feel. They just know it. They feel it with them. Yep. So on that note, let's talk a little bit about your journey with LinkedIn and how you got to, and we'll pick out some how-tos and best practices, some of the principles of good LinkedIn authorship, if you will.
For sure. So it started a little over a year ago. I looked at LinkedIn as a boring business platform, which multiple posts have used those same words, because it was the congratulations, you got promoted. Yay, balloons, right? It was the looking for work. It was the looking to hire. And it was just like a dead, archaic platform in my mind. And then one day I came across a creator that was posting real stuff. And I said, you know what, let me give it a go. And I did. And after that, it's, the next day I said, you know what, let me write another one, give it a go. And I felt good. I got that ego boost, that egopamine. Yay, people love me. Awesome. And after a while, I realized that there is something more to LinkedIn than how 99% of the people are using it. And it's now been a creator network, a creator platform, where if you put the time in, you write these posts, you build an audience, you can accomplish so many things. But it took me a few months to realize that that ego boost is awesome, but LinkedIn famous is not really famous. Sure, it was cool to be walking down the street in my town, or someone sent me a text message saying, hey, I saw your post. It was really awesome. That feels good for a while, but that doesn't pay the bills.
Right? Exactly.
So you have to have purpose, a why, as Simon Sinek says, right? Yes. And the why is to attract your ICP and turn them into a customer.
Can you tell the audience what an ICP is?
Ideal client profile. Okay. Who do you want? Do you want to sell to the John Firsts of the world? Or do you want to sell to, I don't know, Betty Rosses of the world? I don't know why I put you two together, but whatever it works.
I'm sure I know who she is.
I would hope.
I'm sure you'll tell me. You mean Betsy Ross?
Betsy, sorry. Well, there you go. There's a gap. Tomorrow. When I confuse Betsy and Betty.
Okay.
I meant
I think
Betty
she's
Rose.
Been dead for a while. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you discovered it in true Darren fashion, not because people were talking off your ear and telling you had to do it, but because you sensed something, which is pretty much how your success factor. I think you have a very good intuitive sense of something happening and how to turn it into a reality for yourself.
Yeah, the reality
I tend to be more
ADHD. I have ADHD, and up until a few months ago, I could never put my finger on it. And then I saw a post on Instagram, which I rarely go on, but this one, they targeted me, they saw it. And it was a guy who has ADHD, and he was talking about he has a sixth sense, that he sees body language, facial expressions, micro expressions. He sees things moving so quickly that other people can't pick up. And I always would turn to Christy, my wife, and say, that guy's full of shit. I don't know why everyone believes him, but I see it. And then that guy turns out to be a con artist. And people turn to me and say, how did you know? There's just something about this one superpower about ADHD that plays in my favor.
Yeah, well, the con artist is another topic. There have been moments where I've had real clarity about reading people. And then there have been moments where I haven't trusted it. And that's the moments where I actually get lost, when I don't trust an instinct that I've built over years, quite honestly. For some reason, I wanted to be able to. I remember sitting as a child when I was 8 years old, driving home from a little hike. My father was Austrian, and we always went on hikes in Morristown, the Jockey Hollow. And I remember driving back and saying, if my parents died, am I going to feel grief? Am I going to feel anything? And I sat there going, I have this terrible feeling I'm not going to feel anything. And that was the first time I thought, you know what, there's something weird right now. And that kind of sent me off on the journey. And as I said, I've worked very hard to become an empathic human being, literally. But let's talk a little bit about the steps. So the first step for me, and I think for you, was recognizing that it is about humans, and it's about talking about yourself in a way that incites other people, can inspire them, simply because they relate to it. And suddenly you're somebody that they feel they can talk to, because you were coaching when you started LinkedIn. I've been using LinkedIn since I became a chair at Vistage, i.e. a coach. So I've come to the conclusion of all the professions, maybe the exception of wealth managers, maybe doctors, this is where you have to be. No more than wealth managers. Wealth managers do not open the kimono readily. You have to be relatable. And the only way to do it is to talk about your own successes and failures and to relate on multiple levels. So we are uniquely positioned, I think, to do that. Would you say that other professions, because I know we don't have just coaches in our group, do you see that happening with doctors, lawyers? They also are becoming more relatable.
So, doctors, I don't want them on LinkedIn. I want them to be doctors. It's also why I'll say this kind of tongue in cheek. Doctors aren't great at running businesses. Not all, overgeneralization there, but we want them to be great at doctoring, right? Same thing with lawyers. They don't run great businesses. They run their practice, but there's someone else running the business. But when it comes to who should or shouldn't be on LinkedIn, everyone should have a fighting chance at LinkedIn. And I truly believe that. If you are a solopreneur or a single member business owner to a partnership, you should absolutely be on LinkedIn. And if you think that you should have a company on page on LinkedIn, yeah, you should have one, but no one gives a shit about the company page. No one's following the company page. And
I don't even have one. I think I've sort of just passed that by. I should probably do it.
Yeah,
but
it's all about the personal brand of the CEO, right? If you're in sales of any sort and you don't have a LinkedIn profile, I will never buy from you,
right?
Because you are missing the most fundamental, rudimentary step. You will never get hired today. If you think about it, what does a hiring manager do? They do a background check. And if I'm interviewing for a sales position with 10,000 plus followers, and you're interviewing for that same sales position with no followers, I'm getting the job over you without even a thought, provided
that goes for
checks out.
Everything. It's so I've taken courses on public speaking. It is very clear that if you're going to do anything where you have to appear in public, where somebody else is either footing the bill or hosting you, you have to bring a following with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Nobody cares anymore.
Yeah. I have a friend last year, he hired somebody and he put the announcement on LinkedIn, and I called him up. I'll call him Bob, right? I said, Bob, I saw the guy that you hired. Why'd you hire him? And he's a great salesperson, accomplished. So, he did a great job getting hired. He sold me on this. I said, but the guy has 467 connections, no background banner. His photo looks like it was taken from a glamour shot in 1992, and he's never posted. He's not going to be successful. Well, Bob's like, well, you don't know that. Okay, Bob. Terminated his employment contract 90 days later.
Yeah, it's an imperative. It's interesting because this SBA project I'm going to do, it's for a nonprofit, and I was talking to the CEO who basically gave a bunch of names to the SBA, and they chose me because of my LinkedIn profile. None of his people have LinkedIn profiles. And there's a reason why he asked me to train it, is because his people are so not at all marching in lockstep with anything. Yeah. So I thought it was pretty, to hear that somebody has an organization where nobody is on LinkedIn is pretty.
LinkedIn and business are synonymous. You can't sleep on it. You really, it's just, it's like having a business card back in the day. You wouldn't go out to a networking meeting without business cards. Today, you can't go out to the streets of life in the professional sense without a LinkedIn.
Right. So I just want to stop here for a second. I'm talking with Darren Moss about reinventing yourself, or using LinkedIn as the tool to reinvent yourself professionally, if not personally. This is hosted by myself, and I built a group called Executives Over 50. We started about this time last year. And as the name implies, this is for people who are nearing the end of what I would call the second act. It tends to be corporate careers. That's why they're executives and not CEOs or business owners. Tend to be people who were hired throughout most of their career, made good money, were very impactful and successful, and yet then at some point in their 50s, maybe 60s, realize it's all going to end, and they're not sure what they're going to do, or they're not sure how it's going to end. Usually it's ended for them. So LinkedIn is a very important topic for this group. Tell me now about some of the principles. We talked about you have to be open and vulnerable, but there's some other wise words, ways that you talk to us in the group about things you have to constantly remind yourself to do. What would be some of those principles?
Yeah. So taking a step back, the hardest thing to do is that first post, right? Is just being willing to put yourself out there. And here's the thing. If you take that step, put yourself out there, and the post sucks, it dies. You can delete it.
True.
Right.
True. Okay.
But if it does well, then you made your point and you do well. Right. So the first thing you have to do is be very, very consistent. You have to write content, and it has to be posted every single day on your schedule. Don't worry about playing the game of algorithms. Don't worry about the best time to post is this or that, because I don't believe any of that shit.
I write at night,
so on your time.
Yeah. So at 1 a.m. is when some of my stuff goes out. I'm not going to wait for 9 a.m. because I may forget to do it.
Yeah. Well, you will have better results, though, if you post when your audience that you want posts, right? Just like if you're in a service business and your clients start the day at 9 a.m. So do it where your audience, where your ICP is.
So it's interesting because I have several clients that I shoot off an email to them at 2 a.m. and I get a response back. So
that's your ICP then.
I guess that's my ICP or night owls. Yeah.
High performing night owls. So that's the first thing. And then, let's look at what the strategy is. It's a funnel strategy, right? So you got your funnel, right? I'm trying to fit it on camera. Funnel. Okay. Here. The top of the funnel is your content. That's that top layer. Okay. You're going to post content. You're going to build an audience. Then what's going to happen is naturally you'll get likes and reactions and comments. The comments are critical. When someone leaves a comment, they stopped by your post. When they leave a comment, your responsibility at this point is to comment back. More than just a, hey, thanks for your comment. It's, John, I absolutely see your point. You brought up an interesting blah, 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 blah. Thanks for stopping by. Okay.
All right. This is interesting.
We're in the middle of the funnel, right? We've had engagement. We've had a volley. We're in the middle of this funnel.
Have you ever asked yourself why you weren't getting the kind of comments you wanted to get or not enough? Because that's where I am right now.
Yeah, of course.
I'd love to know something about the secret sauce, and maybe the audience would too, how to get people to comment.
So there's a couple things. One, you have to have engagement lists that you build, people that you like to show up on. So John, I love your content. I'm going to show up every day. Maybe I'll figure out you posted at 1 a.m. I'm not waking up, but at 9 a.m. I'll look for John Firth. I'll build the link to you. Hey, John, great post. This really reminded me of when I was riding a bike and fell off as a kid. Right? Just by doing that. Now, John, naturally, you're going to want to come back to me, and you do this volley back and forth and back and forth. But I'm not really speaking to you. I'm speaking to your audience.
All right, right.
When you comment or like one of my posts, it gives an opportunity for your audience to see John Firth just left this comment on this post from Darren Mass.
Right. Yep.
So it's a game. It's all a game. Now, once you have that comment back and forth, you have your engagement list, you maybe comment yourself on 10, 20, 30 people a day, you built your strategy. Now, how do we get you to the bottom of the funnel? Well, that part is sales 101. I have to DM you and say, hey, John, thank you so much for that really thoughtful comment. FYI, I post every day at this time. These are the topics I post on. Would love to get blah, 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 blah. And you engage. And now you're working them down the bottom of the funnel. And the final closer is what you do with your profile. Every aspect of your profile, from your banner to your picture, to your tagline or your headline, to your about section, to your featured tiles, should do one and only one thing. And that one thing is to get your ICP to engage with you, bottom of the funnel. So for me, it says meet with me. And if you miss that at the top in the banner, it says meet me with me in the link, and it goes straight to my Calendly. And if you miss that in the service page, it says meet with me. And if you miss that in the feature tile, it says meet with me. My about section, you guessed it. The only thing I want you to do is hop on one of my small group networking introductions to my community. The entire profile is not confusing. It is graphically pleasing on the eyes. It contains calls to action. It contains details about me. And the only thing I want you to do as a human being is have FOMO, fear of missing out, groupthink, herd mentality, and just meet with me. And if you design your profile like that, you will see a lot of success.
So is the meet with me like a call to action?
Yeah.
Does it appear? It occurs as a call of action. Okay.
And I chose meet with me. It could be schedule a call, schedule a 1:1, book a meeting. It shouldn't be go to your website unless you're selling a product that you could buy off of your website. Why? Because people are tired of perusing websites. It's too lengthy. We want instantaneous gratification. We want to be satisfied right away.
The shortest point, or how does it go? The shortest way from A to B is a straight line.
Straight line. So that's the thing. Is your profile strategically should just be a straight line to meet with you. I host 2 calls per week, Tuesday and Thursday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Not confusing. And they are up to 10 people per call. So I can get to know you, network back and forth, review our community, decide if you would be a good fit for our community and if I would be a good fit for your life and your business and your LinkedIn. And if it is, that's up to 20 opportunities per week for our community.
Right. No, you've done an amazing job. You've pulled together, what is it now, about
182 as of this morning.
Yeah. So, and you've been doing this now for a little less than 6 months.
7 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
but the thing is that just about every one of our members is performing as long as they are willing to put in the work. I can't do it for you. I can motivate you. I can hold
let's
you
talk
accountable.
talk about that for a second. By the way, I want to shout out to Ayman Hamid. He is actually somebody I've talked to my executives over 50, thanks to my LinkedIn work. and I'm glad he's shown up. And I hope he's enjoying it. He said he's looking forward to our conversation. I hope he's still looking forward to it. So let's talk about the work. Maybe we can do it in bite-sized chunks of, this is one of the things, one of the work streams you have to do consistently. This is one where you may have to do a lot up front and not so much. Tell me about, in your mind's eye, what are the 3 or 4 key work streams that you have to keep on doing?
You have to post consistently because your audience is going to show up if they can, without thinking, know that you're going to be there. It is impossible to open up LinkedIn without seeing me now, especially if you're connected.
I know.
You cannot. I'm the first person you see. I'm not saying that to be braggadocious. I'm saying because I put in the work, right? Y'all could do it too. So you have to show up consistently.
It's true. You and Lisa Williams,
yeah,
are the 2 that show up the most.
Yeah.
And Alex Bradley is the 3rd one who shows up occasionally.
And Lisa's in our community, and Alex is an awesome
Alex is too.
Actually, wait,
yeah.
Alex
is he's in the community too. Yeah. Yes, I had talked to him about Executive Zero 50.
Well,
yeah,
let me throw this point in because this term is thrown around. We are not a pod. A pod has a negative term where you buy engagement from other people. That's not what
very important point. This is a very important point.
Yeah. I personally
tell them what a pod is. Tell them what a pod is. They may not know.
It's an engagement community where you pay money and people will like your stuff, comment. It's vapid. It's fake. It's not. I personally don't give a shit. If that's the way you want to run your life, great. But for us, it's about teaching best practices.
And LinkedIn cares about it, though.
They do, but they don't police it very often because they care about eyeballs and attention, right? They're a social platform for that reason. But I would not recommend doing something that cheats your way to the top, because then what kind of life is that, right? But obviously, if you join a community of peers, you network with those community of peers, they know and like you, they're going to want to support you as well. So there's a big difference though between paying for engagement versus building real relationships.
Yes, absolutely. It's more work to build the relationships.
Of course, but it's more fruitful in the end.
And it's satisfying when you're not exhausted from doing it. So when you're posting, you don't have to have original content in every post, correct?
No, I mean, I personally like original content. What happens after a while, I've been doing this now for over a year. I reuse some posts. Maybe it didn't perform, so I'll tweak it with, maybe I've got a different hook that I can try or a different meaning. Or maybe I'll take one that did perform and I'll say it in a different way. I never take a copy and paste, but it's just like a teacher with a lesson plan year over year over year. You can decide to take that same plan and jazz it up a little bit, but your baseline is already there. I post on 4 pillars, 4 topics. It's CEO stuff, the emotions of business, LinkedIn, and communities. And I keep posting on that. Every week you have a different type of post, community post, a LinkedIn post, a, LinkedIn's great type post, a engagement on emotions post. I just mix those up over and over. So you have to do that every day. You have to respond to all the people that comment. You have to engage with others. You have to send DMs. These are not maybes. You must do it, because if you want to be successful, you have to put in the work.
Sorry, every time somebody calls me during this, and I can't even find the phone.
John, they do make silent.
Yeah, I know. And
it's this new feature that's been around forever.
And I can't even find the phone. It's somewhere on my desk. All right, it's going to stop in a second. And it's probably spam. Thank you, Mr. Spam. So let's come back to the hours that this requires, because I am not putting in the hours, but I also coach, which means I have anywhere between 2 and 6 hours a day that I'm coaching.
Yeah.
And then, I'm to write one post and to do follow-ups and stuff, I need at least 2 or 3 hours, at least. And
after a while, you get better at it. So my recommendation is a solid hour. So what are the things in your life that you do that are a complete waste of time that you don't need to do? Doom scrolling on TikTok, not worth it.
No,
right?
I'm not doing that. It's YouTube tends to be my, I can easily just start watching YouTube videos.
You can cut a few minutes out of that. Me personally, I don't email anymore. I open my email up maybe once or twice a week. Yeah, sure, things fall through the cracks. But if I want to reach you, I'm going to find you on LinkedIn. That keeps your eyeballs on the prize.
Yeah.
Or if you want to reach me, I'm on LinkedIn. And that's how we have a conversation. Granted, not the best messenger in the world, but that's how I stay on LinkedIn.
So you do one thing that I'm trying to work into a habit, which is when you text, you use the microphone feature and not type it.
I do that for everything, including the comments. To me, it's a shortcut. It's also why my comments tend to be longer or more natural in conversation.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's just easier to just say, "Hey, John, thanks so much for that great comment. I really do see your point and I appreciate it." Versus,
So I think what I'm hearing, and by the way, I'm learning as much as I can right now. I wish I could actually write things down, but I don't have the notebook in front of me.
that's the beauty of a recording.
Is that it is a lot of work, but there are tricks and tips of ways to make yourself more productive by using the microphone function.
Work smarter.
When I'm texting, I have big hands. I'll say the number of times I've been to the end of a comment and I've done the wrong thing and it suddenly disappeared. I have to start all over again.
Yeah. With an ADHD brain, by the way, I've got those thoughts. I could speak, but if I start thinking of something and typing it out, sometimes, actually more often than not, if it was a long thought process, I forgot exactly what I wanted to write as I'm typing it. So now when I just speak it, I can edit it from there.
Yeah. Speaking, I'm doing that more and more, although there's something about typing and the process of taking a lump of clay, which is sort of your first draft, and actually typing it into shape. It's just very involved. It's a lot of work.
Well, when it comes to posts, the majority of my posts will start off with, I have a conversation, I have an idea. And if I'm recording, most of my Zooms I record now for this reason. I have a little timer in the top. I write down the timestamp, 32 minutes, 10 seconds. Boom. I go back to that recording and I know exactly what I liked about that. And then I turn that into a post.
So one of the things I've learned, I have a survey that I'm now using for marketing purposes. Actually, I should ask your opinion about this because it is a little bit of a deviation from what we're talking about, which is to engage people through giving some knowledge about themselves and asking them to think about their lives now that their corporate career. And it's a pretty good survey. I've had people take them. You're not 50 yet, although you are really on your third or fourth act. I just lost my train of thought. But what was I going to say? So I'm going to. This happens a lot. Where was going?
So it's ADHD or dementia. Pick one.
It's probably more like dementia at this point. I am 65. I just turned 65. But so I do this survey, and we'll have to come back to it. I've forgotten what it was. I was going to say.
I think you were going to ask about surveys potentially or polls on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Okay.
Those are fine. I started off using polls. Polls do get a lot of engagement, but it's kind of yesterday. It's okay to mix and match. Now, the thing, just like everything else in life, you want to test what your audience is good for, what they're open to. So I personally don't do polls anymore because I found my stride with posts and selfies. Every once in a while, I'll have someone say, "Well, why do you keep showing your face? It's narcissistic." Well, because we look at each other in the eyes when we have conversations. It's psychological. So I stop your scroll a little bit if I'm recognizable. And the times that I've had posts that don't have a selfie with me in a goofy hat, the post doesn't do well.
All right, let's talk about that for a second, the imagery. So I have a little secret that everybody knows, so it's not a secret anymore, that animals sell. So if you look at my posts, I've got some posts with my dog goes out of control.
Sure.
I have a lion. I have a post with a lion looking sort of confused. And I comment on that image that I found because it was a cool image, which is basically, don't, even a lion can be open and vulnerable if it has to be. And that did really well. So for me, the selfie, your selfie, is my animal, I think. Your wife, you talk about your wife, how females, we're going to say it, get more, people are more interested in seeing females on the pictures than the males.
Yeah, when I have a post with my family or with my wife, whenever my kids are involved, I put something cute over their face. Or my wife's my photo editor, so she'll put like an acorn or like a pie if it's a holiday. Kids shouldn't be exploited on social media without their permission, right? That's
absolutely. Well, on YouTube, you actually, even when you create content, they ask you if it's meant for children or not, and if it is, there's a whole bunch of other stuff you have to like write down and swear to. I don't know. I never made something for kids. So
I just feel like, your kids didn't ask to be put on your social media. And plus I don't want them out there, but I want their persona in the picture because it's a family picture or Christmas, holiday, Thanksgiving, whatever. But when it comes to my wife, those posts do well because people do like to see happy couples. And, everything is structured. It's honest. It's truthful. It's myself. This is the impression that I want the world to have because I'm very honest about who I am. I've I don't have a fear of you finding out that I'm depressed every once in a while. Big deal,
Mm-hmm.
right? But those posts do well. But I do
Yeah.
notice when I don't have a selfie and it's just a picture of
Mm-hmm.
something else, those don't do as well. And I liken that to truly looking and engaging with each other in the eyes. And it's the
Yeah.
familiarity of what you are doing, the consistency of showing up every day. There is a whole bunch of people out there that have me on their engagement list and they want to engage with me, and they'll miss that scroll in their feed if it's not my face.
Okay, that's interesting. So you've convinced me now to do more selfies. For a while there, I
Oh, for
really
sure.
wasn't doing it. Well, I did one selfie of me drinking champagne at 11 a.m. in France, where I looked pretty wasted. That was
Well,
the last selfie I
so
put
was
up.
that your David Hasselhoff moment? Were
I
you eating a
suppose so.
hamburger?
If I were built like a David Hasselhoff, yes, but I'm not.
There you
So,
go. No, but you have to do what works for you. But I can guarantee you, though, that if you post selfies of you, you're going to get more engagement because people will know, like, and trust you. And they can't know you if you're just showing pictures of lions.
and that's reflective of a certain human condition, which is you remember things that repeat themselves. So
Yep.
I'm a great fan of repetitive communications. In fact, most CEOs talk too much. And they wonder why their employees don't understand what they're talking about because they decide they're going to have a different way to tell them what to do. No, just repeat yourself. And it's the same thing. Repeat posts with maybe a little change. But you know what? There's a whole bunch of people who never saw the original post. So I actually have no problem completely just reposting it the way it was, because there's probably a whole new audience that, a post from last year. I probably have a whole bunch of people that weren't even communicating with me last year.
No, you're absolutely right. So if what you're doing here strategically is growing your audience and your followers, then those next 1,000 people don't know your original story. They didn't even see it. In fact, the first 1,000 people don't even remember what you posted yesterday.
Yes. They're
Right?
sitting there
they
going,
don't know what
"Oh,
you wore
that's
yesterday.
exactly what I read." Yeah, they're not going to sit there and say they probably
It's
don't even
life.
remember reading it. Yeah,
People care about their most favorite subject, and that's themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing selfish about
not at
being
all.
selfish. You should take care of yourself. You should like yourself, right? Even when you're on a plane, they tell you put your oxygen mask on first. Take care of you first. You can't
Yep.
take care of
Yeah.
others if you don't like and appreciate yourself.
That's one of those key moments of people when they're being coached. Is they understand that they've got to take care of themselves first.
Yes.
And then they can go out and have impact. So many people want to make the impact and they don't do the work on themselves.
Yeah.
And generally not impactful. We're getting close to the end. So we've covered a lot of very interesting ground, as always. What are some other things? We've got one thing I want to throw out here. These are sort of mini things, but there's a lot of small little bits and pieces that when you do them, they add up to something very, very significant. Imgur is where I get a lot of my images now. One of my clients told me that's where he got his images, and he's like you, he's got some really cool images. So my big heart-stopping moment was when I basically walked out on my board and told them to fuck themselves, all the senior executives in the consulting industry. So it's found its way in many different things I've written. I decided I'm just going to put it out there. And I was looking, I went into Imgur and I posted different things that would be associated, board of directors or senior executives or something, to find a picture that would be worthy of what I went for. And I found this thing of people bobsledding on turf. And I don't know why that resonated with me, but it made sense because what it was, somebody jumping off of something with a sled on turf, not snow, and going down. And I thought that's exactly the feeling, is when you take that jump and it's not planned and you kind of don't do it well. It's like going someplace on something it was not meant to do. Now they were having fun, and ultimately that was what I want to inspire. But it's interesting how imagery doesn't necessarily immediately have to link in a literal fashion. It has to be an emotive. And so yes. I thought the emotions in that, and literally the motion too, of that going down on turf and that being so odd, that's what made that post, I think, my best post.
Yeah, well, it's likable, right? Yeah. You want something that captures and captivates attention, but sells a story. That's what pictures do. That's what paintings do, right? Impressionism, right? It's how do you feel by looking at this thing, and you're emoting or creating a visceral response in your audience.
Yeah, and that's what I came down with. I mean, it really is. When I did my MBA, and because I'm a hyperachiever as you, we never took emotions very seriously. It was all about the finance and very dry. So for me, this is a huge revolution. It is truly my reinvention. to realize that I actually really do care about people. I actually like people. And there are a lot of people who don't. So this is a new world I'm very happy with. And I'm going to keep trying to get up there and get more reactions and more comments, because I got to use our community more than I'm doing right now.
By the way, that would be a great hook for you. I actually like people. There are lots of people that don't, but I'm one of those that actually do. That is so relatable. How many times that I have said I like dogs more than people, and everyone who I say that to relates, like, yeah, dogs are so much better than people.
I know.
Right? I'm sorry.
They are better.
Sorry,
but you can't have a conversation with them. But you can't have a conversation with dogs. They're amazing. They're amazingly in tune with us. I'm floored how much my dog probably understands when I speak to her. Yeah. I'm floored of the moments where she has looked at me, and I remember her looking at my hands and seeing what I could do with it. And she looked at her paws. We'd only had her for a couple of months. She was about 1.5 years. And clearly at that moment, she was going, why does he have fingers? Yeah. You can just see that somehow going through her head. Yeah. It's very touching, but you can't have a conversation with them, even though she tries to.
Oh, you can, but I mean, it's going to be a one-sided conversation and lots of these.
Well, yeah, right. Which is very cute, and you want to pet them, and her name is Bella, and she's Bella for a reason, because she's so beautiful. So, parting comments, words of wisdom to our audience about LinkedIn.
All right. So the number one mistake I see people make, that banner space, the biggest real estate at the top of your profile. Mm-hmm. It's great that you took an awesome hike and you have a lovely picture of the beach there, and you have wonderful trees or your company logo. Mm-hmm. Great. That's awesome. It does you no good. It is not MySpace. Your profile is not meant to be beautified for your personality. Mm-hmm. Your profile is meant to be targeted for your personal brand. Okay. So in that space, studies have shown, heat mapping studies, this is 7 seconds the average person spends looking at that banner. So if they land on your profile,
that's longer than I would have thought. That's actually longer than I thought they would.
Well, the goal is to get them there for those 7 seconds. So you have to create information for them to look at. So if you click on my profile, you will see the first thing, feeling lost on LinkedIn, ? Everyone can relate to that, right? Mm-hmm. There is a description of what I do. The community for business and brand builders. You see my face yet again. Why? Because I want you to look me in the eyes as you're looking on my profile. Mm-hmm. And then there's a call to action. And it says, DM me brand built. I'm maximizing that space for those 7 seconds. And then,
it's actually very simple if you think about it.
Well, the most simple things are often overlooked.
Yeah. It's like some of the most obvious solutions, people don't see them. It's standing right in front of them.
I've had lots of situations where when I was a engineer and a technician fixing routers and switches in the IT world, I spent hours past midnight trying to troubleshoot why this thing wasn't working. And then I would have my boss say, did you check the plug?
So I have a story about that. I was at home and my husband was at work. He's a real estate guy. I was working from home. I forget what I was doing. And I had the maid there. And she spoke very little English. Suddenly, the vacuum cleaner goes silent. And she starts screaming, she said, Mr. First. And I was going, what the hell's wrong with this thing? I call Curtis. I said, what happened? How am I going to fix this? He said, plug it back in. And he had pulled the plug out.
We all have those moments. And we all, as smart and intelligent as we are, our intelligence blinds us from the most simple, because we're so intelligent. It could not be. We immediately dismiss the most basic step. In the case of LinkedIn, the most basic step is your profile is you. It's your personal brand. Use it for that, and don't do it to make it pretty.
Yeah. The artistry is left to the artists.
Yes.
We are communicators. And I'm going to end it with a little story. I have a client who's actually 72. He still works in insurance. He has a big book of business. And he's on many boards of arts organizations. He wants to see if he can get onto boards of for-profit. And so we talked about how he would go about doing that. And so we started looking at the LinkedIn of his chairman of the board of the company he works with. I won't say who they are. And the president, or the CEO. And their LinkedIn profiles were the chairman of the board. It was that simple. He talked about all the other boards he's on, and the CEO talked about empowering people and leadership, not on a lot of boards. And I thought, this is an example of somebody, they just put down what the what everybody imagines a chairman of the board talk about, which is other boards and the boards and some of the nonprofits or good things they're doing. And I thought this is an example of cutting down to the bare minimum. And it was interesting. It was one of the few times I actually read the whole about section.
There you go.
Yeah. So I think there you go. That prove your point. Yeah. Just communicate and communicate who you are, and don't try to make it fancy or funny or whatever.
Yeah, get to the point. So you mentioned the about section. The about section should be the best post you ever have written, and it should be about you, not your business, not your sales, not your pitches. It should be a nice post about you. And there's nothing wrong with using words like I, we, me, us, them, whatever. Just make it a great flowing post. And the biggest mistake I see that most people make who are not getting traction on LinkedIn is they are writing copyright. They are writing as your elementary school taught you to write. They're writing full sentences. They are writing left to right because we read left to right, but that's wrong. You have to change your writing style. LinkedIn or any social media is completely different than how your grade school teacher taught you. You have to abbreviate, you have to shortcut, you have to Cliff's Notes things, you have to chunk it and make it flow. You have to make it visually appealing for people to read it, because we don't have attention anymore. We read from top to bottom and we skim. If it's too long, we miss it. If it's too short, we ignore it. If it's too chunked, we absolutely don't want to work. So we're not going.
I have a question to you. Is that done on purpose, or is it something people learn? Because I will tell you about an experience I had that made me realize that America is being taught to skim. And that was, I'll tell you the story.
Yeah, we have more, it's on purpose because, well, one, we have no attention span anymore. We like to see things visually because it numbs our brain. It gives us the dopamine, serotonin, and all that stuff, right? We can't read. We can't sit still anymore. We all have ADHD now. Yay, it's normalized. Woo, right?
Yeah.
Right. But it's really because we need to be able to take in more information. We need to be able to skim and get the gist
and discern information very quickly. This is the information age. So part of being in the information age, you've got lots of information. Yeah. And the human ability to parse through. That's one of the things I find personally difficult about LinkedIn is all the people I have to correspond with, and I have to go back and look at a post if I haven't talked to them for a while. It is very complex.
Yeah, it's very, life is complex. Life is busy. We're all overwhelmed, right? Make it palatable and easy to read, and people will want to read it and follow it. And chances are they won't even read everything. I've had posts where I say something about the post and I say, use the word pineapple in the comments if you caught this. And nobody uses the word pineapple. Maybe one person, right? But it's not about what you write all the time. It's about what you can do to help someone else. And that's important, right?
And it's not what
I and other creators have become a catalyst for your success.
Right.
You hop onto my post, you can converse with other commenters in my post. There, build a network right there. So that's what happens as your profile gets bigger. You get more followers. You get more followers because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. People are doing the same strategy you used in hopping on other people's posts. You become the person they hop onto, and it's just a snowball at that point.
And this is I forget what they call it, Web 2.0 or something, which is, it's all about community now. Yeah. I see all sorts of kind of communities, and I'm in the community that I build of executives over 50. I'm in your community about LinkedIn users for business. So it is right now, everything's about building community.
It's about surrounding yourself with the people you actually know, like, and trust. I repeat that often, but if you think about it, the oceans of social media are so vast. You can't put all of your thoughts out there. It's not a safe place. So the new social media is really building or joining smaller communities where you can relate, you can get a boost, you can find that personal board of directors that'll hold you accountable. That's the niche that I saw needed to be filled. And that was the void in the market. And that's why we created Brand Built, is teaching LinkedIn, sure, but we're not a LinkedIn community. We're a community for business and brand builders. LinkedIn happens to be the best tool for marketing.
Exactly.
Most people don't have a storefront. Most people aren't in retail. So how do you market yourself and your business? Well, on the number one platform, LinkedIn. So while LinkedIn is the number one platform for this, we're going to teach it, we're going to educate on it, and we're going to hold everyone accountable on it. And if LinkedIn goes away or something happens, we'll find the next best, latest, greatest thing. But we are a business coaching, a support community for business and brand builders, for professionals that
Because
feel like they're
if you
stuck.
can't convert your LinkedIn people to clients, then there's something wrong. So
Yeah.
I guess I would leave it with this thought is, when I go through my list of clients, just trying to figure out how they became clients, I sometimes can't remember that they came from LinkedIn. That few moments you spend on LinkedIn trying to get their interest and start, that goes by the wayside, because eventually that was just with the good clients. It's like I owed a tiny little segment of your relationship was those few moments on LinkedIn where you talk to them. So it really is, it is the first stone you put in place.
For sure. Just about every big client I had when I had a telecommunications company was a LinkedIn relationship.
Wow, even back then.
Yeah. My first 3 clients came from LinkedIn. I was sitting in an office, no customers. 3 months later, I'm going to fail. Went on LinkedIn. They had this Q&A section. I went into the telecom Q&A. I answered a couple Q&As. Hey, would you be willing to meet with us? We have a need.
And I'm the kind of guy who didn't take LinkedIn seriously. It was a dumb pipe for me for many years. I know you've sort of alluded to that. And it's only now that I'm still learning to appreciate the richness of the experience. Yeah. There's part of me that says this is a business, and yet I spend more and more time reading everything. YouTube still has my eyeballs more than any other social media platform, because I just like the videos. There's so much interesting stuff. But it's a reinvention. It's a reinvention of how we do business.
Yeah. Well, let's also add one more thing. It's fun as hell. If you actually get your stride going, it's fun. It's great to feel like you have an audience and people support you, right?
The audience that are like you. So these are intelligent, successful people.
Yeah, it's fun to connect with others while we're sitting in our homes and not having coffee talk or water cooler conversations.
Or not going outside.
Yeah, I mean, there are days where I don't step foot outside.
You can order in. You can have somebody else walk your dog. You can do all.
Well, I just open my doors and they go in the backyard. But
oh yeah, no, I can't do that. I'm on the 15th floor. But no, I mean it's interesting. I have several people that we sit back occasionally say, look at what our lives have become. What is this we're living right now? It's like dystopian, and yet I actually really like this lifestyle because there's so much freedom to do it the way you want to do it.
Well, it depends. I miss having a purpose, going to an office in New York City, going out to lunch with people. But then when I think, would I want to go back to that? No, because I've gotten lazy too, right? I wake up, I go to the gym, go box or do my LinkedIn routine. Do I really want to trudge into the city for an hour and a half?
So here's something I've talked to people about. Would I be able to do socially what I did before? Would I be able to be the quick-footed, always up for a laugh or something? Would I be as social? Could I be social, or would I be nervous? And I've come down to believe that I think when I meet clients face-to-face, occasionally what happens, I am nervous the first couple of minutes, truly nervous, because it's beginning to feel very foreign to have serious conversations with somebody in the room with you. And that's the weird part.
So here's the thing. Human beings are the most adaptable species on the planet. We've been roamers, wanderers, vagabonds, nomads, right? Thank you, Metallica, for that one, right? Okay. We can live in the cold. We can live in the hot, in the medium. We can swim. We can walk, right? We are adaptable. Now, when COVID first came out, no one thought we'd be able to survive working from home. Well, you look at us now, right? I guarantee you, if there was a mandate that everyone had to go back to the office just like this, we would all have a problem. And then within 3 weeks, we'd be back to the way that things work, right? We would adapt. And that's how our brains work. We just adapt. We'll be fine.
Yeah. And that's an important lesson, because I think a lot of people bend over backwards trying to please others when actually all they're doing is disempowering themselves. Yeah. If you just, your clients will adapt to a new schedule. Your clients will adapt to the fact that you've raised your prices. Yep.
We all figured it out with COVID, and we'll figure it out again. Although I don't think that we're going back anymore, because we're stubborn too, and we are creatures of habit, creatures of routine.
And we have technology. If we did not have the technology, in 1918 we had a similar scare. I think telephones. That's what probably made telephones more commonplace. And I wasn't alive then, so I can't tell you exactly how it changed society. But this will be one of the big moments in in history of where we as a society made a major pivot to something else.
Yeah, we literally watched an evolutionary event for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
And we survived it.
So, yeah, whether or not we liked it, kicking and screaming, or moved beyond it, or we all have that crazy uncle that's still talking about it, right? Like it was a war. But
it was there was a moment of supreme weirdness when we got in the car. I think it was a Tuesday that everything closed down, or Monday. Anyhow, a day or two later, we decided to drive around. It was a Tuesday, because I remember it was Tuesday at like noon. Not a soul in Times Square.
Creepy.
We went on Facebook Live, and we broadcast, and we talking to our friends from around the world would pop on and start telling, and we said, look at this. There's nobody in Times Square. We went to Central Park. Nobody in the park. We went down to Brighton Beach. We went all over the city. What usually took us 45 minutes to go from place to place took us 15 minutes because there was no traffic. Yeah. It was so supremely weird. And it only lasted for a couple months, but those months were so weird when you think about it.
I still think we're in a dream. I don't know. I still walk around wondering if this is reality, or did we all just shuck off the marble and here we are just in purgatory? I don't know. It's weird.
Well,
that's deeper. That's a different conversation. But.
So I'm not even sure we're talking about LinkedIn anymore. But wow, this is the longest LinkedIn Live I've held, 56 minutes.
No, ADHD, I can chat.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing, Darren. You and I could probably chat about anything. In fact, we have a meeting to go to in 4 minutes.
We do.
Okay, awesome. Meeting. So thank you for those who stuck with us through the whole thing. I know Eamon at least stayed for half of it, if not more. We will be taking a pause in LinkedIn Lives for executives over 50, but we will return in September with hopefully some great new content. And Darren didn't get a chance to make a plug for Brand Built, but if you really are trying to figure out how you're going to do LinkedIn, become a member of Brand Built. It's not expensive, and it is, if you engage the way you should be, and not like me where I'm sort of engaging, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth the time and the money. What little money, lots of time. So I thought I'd make a plug for you, Darren.
Brand Built is the best ROI you will ever have. We are a business coaching community. We are all about support. And yes, we will teach you LinkedIn ad nauseum, a lot of what I just reviewed here, but there's so much more. And we do a lot of things for our community members that, it's a successful community for a reason. It's good to be around people that like, and trust.
Yeah. And for me to stick to a community long enough is saying something. I mean, I stick to my communities because I created them, but no, it's great. So thank you. We're going to have to go to our meeting now. We didn't have any comments except from Eamon, but I hope everybody was listening intently, and I will look at the analytics in about 3 days to see how we did.
Love it.
All right.
Love the numbers.
Good stuff. All right. I'll talk to you.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you, John.
Bye.
Bye.